end up. So I'm going to really guilt trip you. No. All day sits are a great thing to do any time, but the world really needs grounding right now. We all really need grounding, sitting down in the midst of the wonder and afflictions of the world. And an all day sitting is a rare and precious opportunity to do that. So if you can, come. And if you can't, that's okay too. We still love you. No. Okay. So, Yogacara. I was feeling a little bit, I was thinking, oh, this must be like what the first talk of Shuso gives, that kind of feeling of, oh, I'm plunging into something that I guess we're going to do it. And I've been studying and yeah, Yogacara is, I've been saying it's something I avoided for many decades. It's a complicated philosophical system. And there are philosophical arguments, consciousness only. Did it reify consciousness? But what about emptiness? And you could just go on and on. But I am not going down that road because uh, I don't want to. But also because it feels like there's something really beautiful here to offer, I think, anytime, but especially in this time about Yogacara. And I will call out Ben Connolly and his Inside Vasubandhu's Yogacara Practitioner's Guide. It's very practical, and he's really pared away the philosophy a lot. And I'll be calling on him a lot. Thich Nhat Hanh, Understanding Our Mind, has 50 verses. We are only doing 20. And we know that Ben and I can't remember who, but uh, uh, Wei Teng translated it from the Sanskrit. Thich Nhat Hanh does, I think we all have a sense at this point that Thich Nhat Hanh has his own language and his own ways, which is very wonderful and very Thich Nhat Hanh-y. So I will be calling on him too because I think we know it's, at least I think it's interesting to call on different translations. It helps open it up. And the third one that someone recommended to me recently, Making Sense of Mind Only, Why Yogacara Buddhism Matters, William S. Waldron. I've only just begun into this one. So I'm going to continue to dive in as we go. But I'm grateful to Ben, who is I guess he's now the guiding teacher of the Minnesota Zen Center. And he's been out, Ben, as much as anybody, has been out with interfaith leaders and on the front lines of things that have been happening in Minnesota. And Ben and I used to be on the SCBA DEIA committee. You don't have to know what. You want me to do all those letters again? Anyway, I've worked with Ben and I respect him and I like him. So I'm grateful to him. Okay, you ready? Mhm. Uh-oh. Here we go. Yogacara. Ben reminds us in the introduction, Buddhism. It's like, what are we doing here? What's the point of all this? Uh, it's practice. It's how we take care of our hearts and our minds and the world. And then I thought there's something so kind of beautiful and mysterious about what happened with the peace monks. Hmm. There was just a way that they were embodying the practice of taking care of your heart and your body and just step after step. That in this crazy world, people are just so hungry and thirsty for some way to be sane and present. Uh, so with the sutras, because we've done enough sutras and the teachings, I mean, there is the actual, I mean, there's the philosophy of it and there's the words. And more than anything, it's listening with your whole body. It's listen, just letting yourself be immersed. And of course, I mean, because we have minds trying to figure it out, think about it. I mean, you can do all that, but it's also, Ben uses the word of hearing the song behind the words. That's when we sit. It's like, what are we doing? What's the song of Zazen? There's actually a sutra that we haven't done, the song of Zazen. And what is the song when we chant, when we do services? We're not doing services because we're doing something. There's some song of the whole universe that we're enacting in a ritualized way. So that's when we study, that's fundamentally, we're not doing it to get smarter or to be better Buddhists. I mean, you can do all that stuff if you want. I'm not so interested in that. I'm interested in that we're sitting in the midst of the ancestors. There's Chelsea. That is the ancestors are singing back and forth, and we are the ancestors, and they are us, and it's all call and response. And it's kind of amazing when you can just even have a moment where you just like, oh, I heard it. And then, of course, it disappears into it's like a bird song. But there's something you wake up, you get it. It's here. It's not like it's not out there, and you're not working to get out there to some future point. It's right here. So that's how I'm hoping we enter this. Uh, it's also interesting to me, anyway, that Thich Nhat Hanh, because he really does his teachings, if you know them a little bit and more than just a surface level, he talks a lot about the storehouse consciousness and the alaya and planting the seeds and it's because he's from Vietnam, he's in the Vietnamese tradition, which is situated right behind in Southeast Asia between the Theravadan countries in Southeast Asia and the Mahayana uh, uh, tradition of China and Japan and uh, uh, Tibet is Vietnam calls on both of them. And his training as a young monk is they were made to memorize the Yogacara verses. So it's really deep in him. So of course, when he matured as a teacher, he would bring the teachings forward using some of the language of the Yogacara. So Vasubandhu, who is one of the and a Sangha, but we're going to focus on Vasubandhu, is one of the originators or the originator of Yogacara. 14th century India, one of the most revered teachers of the Abhidharma. So the Abhidharma, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but the Abhidharma systematizes and analyzes the early Buddhist teachings. What I find really interesting and cool, actually, is that Vasubandhu was a recognized authority in the Abhidharma, which is a very dense lists and psychological. Give me another 10 years, maybe I'll decide that I could teach that or want to. But he actually changed. He was an authority and he left what he was really good at and moved towards the Mahayana Bodhisattva teachings because they felt true to him. They felt more inclusive to him. So I think, oh, that's a cool person who just kept developing. He didn't just rest on his smartness and his authority. He really wanted to understand. So he developed the Yogacara as a way to bridge the early Buddhist teachings in the Abhidharma and the Mahayana. So he's included in the Zen lineages when we chant the ancestral lineage chart, which we don't do, but probably for those who have taken Jukai, you have a lineage chart, and his name must be on there. I should double check that. And he's also revered and quoted in the Tibetan. It's part of their monastic training. So this goes across the different traditions. So backing up a little bit, 3 schools of Buddhism. First one, early Buddhism, Pali. I've said and I think I'll confess again, that in my training, which was San Francisco Zen Center based and then everyday Zen based, is we didn't do a whole lot with early Buddhist Pali texts. We just kept diving into all the Zen, which is very beautiful. But at a certain point, I think I started to, and I assume everybody else did too, is you can't skip the roots of the early Buddhist teachings because they're simple and beautiful in a way that really does help inform Zen. So the early teachings were compiled over 40 years of the Buddhist teaching career, and then they were passed down orally. They weren't written down until several hundred years after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha. So it's hard to know how accurate they are. But you can read, there's Bhikkhu Bodhi is a wonderful translator, and I've taken up that practice I meet with somebody and we just read the different sutras just because I want to. I like it now. It's fun. But basically the Four Noble Truths, going from suffering to non-suffering, samsara to nirvana. Theravada and Vipassana think and put forward that this is most important. So it's an individual liberation practice. Is you are going to wake up in this lifetime, much discipline, much practice, and achieve nirvana, which is to extinguish the flame and to ascend out of this world of suffering. Following me so far, sort of? Second, Abhidharma. It's part of the Pali Canon. So there's a Tripitaka. This is a whole bunch of stuff, but there's a Tripitaka. I actually saw one of the originals, I think, in a cave in Sri Lanka. I think that's where I saw it. You can, I mean, there's still, anyway, I think this stuff is fun. The dawn of the first millennium, there are thousands of lists. That's the Pali Abhidharma. So Abhidharma as a movement was an attempt to systematize lists and all other existing teachings and to refine and make it coherent. So to take everything that the Buddha said and make good lists out of it. And they were, I think sometimes, they were just all these monks with nothing else to do. That's how it feels to me. It's like, and then they got really specific, and then they got more specific, and there must have been, who knows, competition, who knows what was going on, but they did really good lists, I think, not in this lifetime, but I'm glad yeah. So they're phenomenally detailed phenomenally detailed cataloging of the process of consciousnesses. It's notoriously complex, and it's psychological. I mean, it's interesting to me that I was a therapist for many, many years, and I pretty much did everything I could to avoid Buddhist psychology. So don't ask me. So third is Mahayana. Mahayana is rooted in early Buddhism, and it's called the Great Vehicle. There is a competition, lesser vehicle. The Mahayanas called themselves the greater vehicle. The early ones, they called the early Buddhists the lesser vehicles. It's so this is part of what Vasubandhu was trying to do, was to help people get over this kind of competition. And the emphasis in Mahayana, you might have noticed, is an emphasis on what emptiness, the Prajnaparamita teachings. The Heart Sutra, that beautiful thing that we chant that can drive you crazy because it says no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, whereas the Abhidharmas were saying eyes, ears, nose, tongue. So part of it was a reaction to, once you start naming something, then you get attached to it, of course, and then you more and more think that you got ownership of what it is. And the Mahayanas said, wait a minute, I think we're getting a little too attached to these concepts. So the Mahayanas, which is our school, because we're right. Right, that was a joke. Sort of. Everything we think is rooted in dualistic thought, because we're wired that way. we have two eyes. It's like you see something because you see it as opposed to something else. You can see and define good because there's bad. You can see light because there's dark. You see up because there's down. So just recognizing that, you're not going to get over that, but to recognize it and penetrate it and understand how it creates suffering because it creates a sense of separation. That's what the Mahayana said, is wait a minute. There's something else going on here that we intuitively know. We intuitively, I think, have a sense of interconnection and compassion and love and non-separation. But you can't grab at it, and the words don't adequately describe it. And our default position is always to go back to, you're over there and I'm over here, and a judging mind or a discerning mind at best. And Yogacara is the combination of the two. It's like you need both because they're both equally true and not true. So seeing the connection is the ground of compassionate freedom of mind. The early teachings were seen as a distraction from realizing liberation right now, because you're deluded. You're going to work really, really hard. I think I've told this story before, but I remember going to probably was Sri Lanka, maybe it was Burma, but I think it was a monastery, Sri Lanka, the ruins, and there was a urinal that had a depiction of the world, and the urinal was that you were peeing on the world. I mean, it's such a graphic. It is that this world is dangerous and defiled, and just you want to get out of it. Whereas Mahayana is, oh no, this is it. A bodhisattva wants to be right here in the midst of this world, because a bodhisattva knows that this world is also uh, it's perfect, and everything is flowing and weaving out of everything else, and there is separation and there is no separation. And how do you wake up in the midst of that? Because that's really how you can help people, because you don't think you're helping somebody outside of yourself. The impulse is to want to enact compassion. Okay. So Vasubandhu wanted to harmonize the differing points of view and practices to help free us and to be at peace and to respond to the world. So he integrated Abhidharma and Mahayana and gave birth to the new tradition of Yogacara. He wanted to show that Abhidharma and early Buddhism and Mahayana weren't in conflict, and for practitioners to access the profound transformative practices of both. She'll tell you about in a minute, because I know you really want to hear. Okay, so Yogacara means yoga practice. Interesting, huh? Yoga, in the original sense, meant joining together or uniting. It's the integration and connection and harmonizing of everything, which includes ethical living, meditation, analysis, using your mind to look and understand, training your breath and your body, and especially compassionate living that arises out of meditation. So it's always pointing at the heart of it. The heart of this tradition is always pointing at compassion, compassionate action. How I want to live. I assume that's how we all want to live. And what's great about this time is it's asking that of all. I mean, all times asks that of us, but right now is, how do you not get caught in it? And what is this bigger place that includes both, but that also responds appropriately? So the 30 verses uses a model of practice and understanding, that they're not separate. The first one is, and the first 15 verses, which we'll be studying, I'm going to try because we've got Tuesday and Thursday, is I'm going to do this today, and then I'm hoping we're going to get to the first verse, and then on Thursday I'll do a little review, but move it forward a little bit, and then come back next Tuesday, and we'll go through the verses, and I think we can do it. So the first 15 verses, this is a lot of information. I'll break it down. Is the function of consciousness and the theory of the eight consciousnesses, which I'm not going to go into tonight, but basically it's about the afflictive emotions. It recognizes we human beings have afflictive emotions or kleshas. Anger. Anybody have anger?
No.
No. Maybe you don't. And selfishness, confusion, want it, don't want it, like it, don't like it. I mean, that's what the Abhidharma was categorizing. But I think it's so beautiful just to recognize that. Because otherwise, I think when I first came to practice, it really looked to me, and maybe it was just me, is somehow I thought we could transcend all of this. I just wanted to get over being me. And we all tried really, really hard. We were young and idealistic. And it's so sweet to me at this point of, well, here we are, and I'm a little wiser and I'm a little more compassionate and I have a little more sense of insight and awareness because if you enter practice and you sit zazen, you're going to notice things arising and passing and all these thoughts and emotions. And so the first 15 verses are really saying, study it. Don't turn away from it. That the barrier is in the first 15, the afflictive emotions. So it uses the emotions to help you let go of the afflictions and to shed suffering. So we're going to spend some time looking at how suffering arises in our dualistic thinking. The second part, 15 through 30, uses the three natures model, which I'll bring forward, and is rooted in the Mahayana. So study it, study the self. Dogen says, this is Dogen, study the self, know the self. And then he says, forget the self. And then the whole world, the 10,000 things will come forward to enlighten you. So the second part of it is study delusion and then let go of it. And gives you ways to let go of it and ways of seeing things that create alienation and the sense of separation. So it gives you the particular, and then it gives you the big view of how to hold all of this so that you just watch it come and go. So the barrier of delusion is more and more you can step into life with a sense of ease and joy and contemplation. Ben says, it's empowering for us to see that we're not victims of karma. We're not victims of habits, of emotions, thoughts, and actions. And we're not victims of what is apparent that we perceive is out there. We are not victims. Nothing is being done to this self in this life. We're getting there. Ultimately, we have no idea what's out there. Only this moment of conscious experience. And we'll get in the second part, it's all projection. We're making up stories out of our own little view. Excuse me, all the time. And the great thing about, great about this period of time is we can see so much how the other side is making up their stories. If they would just get over their stories, but I'm over here and I'm firmly entrenched in my liberal point of view, and I'm absolutely certain I'm right. No, but anyway, you get it. But what's the ground of compassion that's alive so that we can all find creative new ways to enter this new world and let things come apart and come together in a new way? So the practices that we'll be working with is be aware of the power of our cognitive and emotional habits. It's very humbling. I know we all do that, but we're going to do it some more. It's very, you had this experience of how humbling it is to just watch your amazing, beautiful, confused habit patterns. And how I remember reading someplace that Jung said, you keep doing the first thing that he didn't want to even work with anybody till they were at least 40 years old because it took that long to even begin to have a sense that you were trying to do the same thing over and over again. I mean, something like that. Practice mindfulness of the body and emotional states. Be aware of the interdependence of all things, and practice, here it says meditation with no object, which is what Zazen is, because breath is not an object, it's an alive, moving sensation. So we learn to be intimate with self and all things, the commitment to see things as they are while engaging in kind action, and fundamentally, the deepest vow is to want to relieve suffering for self and other and the world, which is, anybody want to relieve suffering? Okay, good. Okay, so let me let's start with this one just to give you a taste. Talks about sitting in ambiguity, not knowing if the presence we sent is the presence we sense, this alive, is out there or in here. If we sit in this not knowing and not having to know, then we may develop an acute sensitivity, even vulnerability to the interplay between our internal experiences and external stimuli, and the boundaries between them begin to weaken and blur. This allows us to open ourselves to deeper, more subtle ways of knowing, which helps us to begin to approach Yogacara. Buddhist inquiry begins by looking long and deeply at human experience, emotional, perceptual, and conceptual experience. It recognizes how easily our attention shifts in mere moments from our immediate sensations and feelings to more abstract conceptions and ideas. We easily get lost in these conceptions, imagining they are fully real, perhaps even the most real. But we can also learn to see through these constructive processes by skillfully focusing on our immediate experiences and noting our tendency to reify, to thingify these experiences into thoughts and concepts. To study it. That's what we're going to be doing these next weeks. How we turn things into things and then reify it. He also says that depending on how we look at it, that developmental stage is around the third year of childhood. When children, babies start to conceptualize. It's just that nobody trains us the possibility that there's a way to please develop, but to stay awake in the stream and flow of sensations and feelings and alive, while we also are, nobody's asking us not to use our good brains and to conceptualize. I'm going to stop in a minute, but I want to read you a couple of these things. Thich Nhat Hanh says, go slowly. Take the time to absorb each verse. Bring mindfulness, kindness, and compassion as we enter this. To the other part later. So the first verse, self and other. It's the fundamental root of suffering. Everything conceived as self or other occurs in the transformation of consciousness. What we're experiencing right now, a sense of location, sensations in the body, the visual field, we divide it all and put the self in the center of it, right? We interpret everything through the self and other. Vasubandhu wants us to recognize that everything we're doing is merely conceptions occurring in a process of consciousness. It's just this consciousness thing that is making up stories all the time, trying to perceive in a constant flow and process and a mysterious unfolding. You get that feeling sometimes, right, when you walk in the woods and or the sun comes up, or there's just moments where you just realize how small you're making everything, and you're just in the midst of this amazing, wondrous, awe-inspiring, and suffering world because we can't hang on to anything. Whatever we experience, we might call ourselves. So let me read you this, and then I'm going to send you into small groups. No, here it's Ben. I'm going to take you to Ben. I invite you, so right now, please, to take a moment. So just take a moment, settle, to investigate what you are experiencing right now. In all likelihood, you have a sense of being in a location, perhaps in a chair or a bed. Chair, not in a bed here. There are sensations in a body that you think of as yours, right? There is a visual field that can be scanned from left to right. That is to say, from what you probably think of as your left and right. There are things behind you that you cannot see, but you can feel. The soft back of a chair, perhaps. You can hear my words, maybe the perception that it's in front of you. You could say you're hearing my words with your ears. We can divide everything in this moment of experience into things that we conceive to be ourselves and things that we conceive to be other than ourselves, with ourselves consciously placed in the center. Whether we know it or not, this division and this self-centering is constantly occurring, and this division and the problems it causes and the possibility of transcending them through intimacy is the principal subject of these 30 verses. To enter a constant flow of experience, a mysterious unfolding. And here's a quote. Whatever arises in experience is your own mind. Mind itself is free of any conceptual limitations. Know that and don't generate self-other fixations. This is the practice of a bodhisattva. You say that again? Mm-hmm. Whatever arises in experience is your own mind. Get your own little conditioned by your family, your culture, this is my mind experiencing. But mind itself, big mind, talking about small mind, big mind, itself is free of any conceptual limitations. Big mind has no beginning, no end. It's just alive, free floating, infinite, above, below 360 degrees. It's that big. No, consciousness is. Know that and don't generate self-other fixations. So simultaneously, study your self fixations. I'm over here. I like this. I don't like this. This is where I am in space right now. And can you imagine that you are in beginningless time and space along with the sun and the moon and all of beginning time and all infinite time going forward, and everything is turning and it's beyond anything you can conceptualize, and they're both true simultaneously? Does this make sense?
No.
I mean, but does it as because that's what we're going to be looking at, is that the two are happening simultaneously and they don't negate each other, but they support each other. Because if you just believe in this small mind, that's suffering. If you just believe in big mind, then you're dissociating. But the two together that's where compassionate, appropriate response, the practice of a bodhisattva is. Is that okay? Self and other. That's the root of it. So why don't we just get in small groups? Let's do just twos. Just turn to somebody and talk about it. Whatever you want to talk about. Talk about self and other. What happens when you even say those words, self and other? Feel how it resonates in the body. Okay, self and other and self. Have fun.